studio, Rahim here with David Haye, the Wu-Tang represent.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
I put my mate on, let him know it's still Wu-Tang forever. Yo, you have put out this doc, and I've been waiting to see it because I remember when you were learning poker. I remember because I was in London for Chisora White, and you were like going back and forth with these poker things. You're like, oh, I'm learning this. I don't know how to play poker. I'm like, man, this is it's gonna be more difficult than you think. So I watched the doc, of course. It's hilarious. It's hilarious to like watch you learn something from like knowing nothing about it and having watched you for so many years be an elite performer in such a competitive field. I didn't know like how serious poker players take poker, and to watch like your team of coaches just exasperated. To talk to me about like being so good at something like boxing, which is so difficult for so long, and then coming in to a competitive field like poker, having to be like a novice. What was it like getting to a place where you could actually compete amongst elite poker players?
It was a journey. It was a hell of a journey. It started off with a lot of confidence. I'm a confident guy. And when Grosvenor Casinos presented me with this opportunity, they said, right, we're gonna give you the opportunity to train as a professional poker player with the best coaches. We're gonna get psychologists. We're gonna get neurosurgeons to check your brain out, memory coaches, whatever you need. We're gonna fly you around the world to deal with the best possible coaches. How do you think you'd do in Goliath, like one of the biggest poker tournaments in the world? Obviously, I'm the haymaker. I'm like, I'll win, obviously, because I'm a winner. I'm a winner through and through. And if I'm focused and if I'm not injured, I'll
you don't have a split on your finger.
Yeah, I got a split on my finger. Yeah, but it was so much. So I'm so physical. I'm used to physically having the superiority over everybody I've ever kind of. It's felt like that since I was a kid. If I was to have a running race, if I was to dunk a basketball, I've always just been way better than the average, way better. So to go into a field where my physical prowess meant zero, nothing, no intimidation, no I'm taller than you, no I can bench press, deadlift, nothing. It was just it was the cards in your hand and how you played those cards. It was real difficult. It was so tough.
Yo, I know that poker, they say, is a lot mental too, like how you play the other players.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and oftentimes, even more so than your cards. Bro, I mean, you're a nice guy, but I've seen you give like the dead stare. I've seen like the beast at a face-off. Were you giving anybody at the poker table like, that I will beat your ass if you win this hand kind of vibes?
I tried it early doors. That was my go-to. My go-to was, so puff your chest out, lean over, go all in and look him dead in the eyes. And you get these little dweeby guys going, I'll call you. And I'll be like, no. And I turn over nothing. And they've got basically a pair of twos or whatever. And it beats me. And I'm just in my ace hide, just trying to flex. Realized that's not good enough. And it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to realize that no one cares who I am. And people want to beat me. I'm the boxer. I'm the ex-heavyweight champion. They want to knock me out. So they're playing against me different than playing anyone else. So I realized I had to have a good hand. Very rarely could I bluff and get away with it, but it took me a long time to realize that. So I then had to really understand the nuances of the game and really study really hard. But it took a long time because the way I was getting taught early doors from my coaches, the poker pros, Jeff, Joe, and Kate, they've been playing for combined probably 50 years or whatever it is. And their knowledge, they understand it. And it's the equivalent of me as a professional athlete trying to teach someone who's got zero coordination how to throw a coordinated combination and just keep shouting at him when he gets it wrong. That's how it was in the beginning. And my brain doesn't function the way most poker players do. And it took me having to fly Audley Harrison over. I went over to see Audley Harrison. I went over to the Philippines with Audley just to get off the grid so we could literally just go deep into the art of poker. And it worked out pretty well.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to, and I don't want to give any spoilers, right? But now that you've mentioned it, that's like my favorite part of the doc because you're talking about the language and the way they were trying to coach you, but you needed to be spoken to in like fighter lingo.
Yeah.
You needed to be communicated with in a way that really only us in the boxing world, only us with this like weird mentality can understand shit. And so when you got Audley in camp and you went away, like going to a training camp, like the whole thing, how much did you need to like flex that boxing muscle to get this mental game in hand?
It was only until Audley had some long, deep conversations over the phone with me. He understood what presses my buttons, what gets me fired up, zoned into something. And he said, you need to treat this as though there's a fight. You're fighting at the end of August and in a tournament called Goliath. So we're going to need to go to some practice and warm-up tournaments. We're going to go to the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. We're going to go to the Philippines, the Asian Poker Tour. We're going to get there early. We're going to do a crazy boot camp. And then we're going to go in and do a trial run like it's going to be the main event in Goliath in Coventry. And it felt like I was preparing for a fight. Like you in training camp where nothing else matters. It's not about how you're eating the right foods, you're getting to bed early, you're exercising, you're training, you're looking after yourself, you're doing all the things you would do in the fight prep. But instead of going to the gym and studying boxing and studying your opponent, looking back over your sparring, I'm actually playing heads-up poker with Audley non-stop. And at the end of every game, we'd get a pad out. I'd say, well, you did this then, I did that, and I raised. Why did you raise? And I said, I raised because, I hit the board, I had two pairs. He went, no, but there's this on we just go for it bit by bit by bit. And slowly but surely, his knowledge, he's got over 10 years of poker knowledge, started to filter into my brain. And I then started to really build some genuine confidence. Not confidence because, I played a few hands. No, I played hour upon hour of poker. And then I started to believe it. He started giving me the energy, giving me the confidence, telling me, you can do this. You can cash in this tournament. And I'm thinking, is he just saying that? But then I'll play him and I'll win a few hands off him and say, listen, if you did that in a tournament, you'd take my chips. And I wasn't expecting you to do that. I thought you were bluffing when you wasn't. So bit by bit, he really got into my head and got me to the point where I walked into this tournament in the Philippines, Asian Poker Tour, guys from China, Philippines, all over Asia were there, the best poker players in the world. And, I'm going to give it a spoiler, but I cashed as he said. He told me I was going to cash and everyone thought, he's just saying that as a bit of hype. He meant it because he believed it. And I went out there and every tournament I went into with Audley giving me his mindset, as good as a poker player is, he's Olympic gold medalist as a boxer, British, European, Commonwealth, heavyweight champion. As a poker player and as a poker coach, he's exceptional. He really is. And, some people, he might be a better coach than he is a poker player because he got into my head and taught someone in a few months how to win significant money and go, coming into the top 0.4% of the field with over 10,000 people. That's not, you can't fluke that. You can't play for 12 hours all day long and not lose your chips by luck. You need to have a strategy. And Audley Harrison, I'll tell you, he's a big shout out to Audley because the doc would have been terrible if he wasn't in it.
Can I say that I've interviewed you for years and years and years before we were personal friends, and I haven't done a single interview with you as a fighter, as a world champion, as a heavyweight champion that was any less enthusiastic, any less fucking bought in, any less hype than you are right now talking about a card game. This is how you become world champion. Everything is at this zenith.
When you're good, when you find something that you're good at, that at one stage I was a little worried real talk. After I accepted this and I started learning and started playing, I wasn't having that much success. I wasn't progressing as I thought I would. I thought, okay, a couple of weeks I'll learn the rules. A month I'll know what I'm doing. 3 months down the line, I didn't really know what was happening. I'm going into losing in my first hand. I went into one tournament. I lost in. It's an all-day tournament. I lost in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
I'm like, what's happening here? And I went in there confident. I went in there, but it was false confidence. It was confidence that like I'd walk to a fight. I know I've been boxing since I was a kid. In fights, I got a chance against anyone, no matter what.
Right.
And I kind of took that confidence into the poker. And it was all good and well. I walked in there that I was super confident, but I just lost all my chips. And I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. You know?
Yeah, you're not used to being the guy that's woken up on the canvas like, yo, did I win?
Yeah, what happened there? It was the first round. Damn. It was an experience that I'm really glad I did, because to start from zero, literally, I didn't know the rules in any way, shape, or form. I hadn't even tried playing a game ever. And then to learn it, and then to build a whole foundation around poker. I met some great people, made some great friends, and it's been a great journey.
And this speaks to what any fighter will tell you, or anybody who knows a fight game, that boxing is more mental even than physical. They say it's 80-90% mental and maybe 10-20% physical. And that's why a fighter can do anything. A world champion mentality can go into any field and dominate, because I believe fighters have a unique makeup and chemistry, and the way their brain works will allow them to dominate any field. And you talked about Audley being a better trainer, even as a poker player, than he was a player, and you being able to speak that fight language with him. And it reminded me of a story I saw this week where one of the most dominant fighters in the world has decided that not only is he going to become a trainer, but he might become the best ever, as his moniker would decree. Floyd Mayweather is a trainer now. I've seen him with his nephew. I've seen him with his son. That's one thing, like train your family. But what do you think is his prospect of becoming, like, not just a good trainer, but like an elite trainer of elite fighters?
If he can find a fighter with his physical attributes, with his timing, his speed, his agility, his chin, his punch power, his cool calmness, his amateur pedigree, then I think he could potentially be a great coach. But it's very difficult to find that. I've not seen many fighters that have the Floyd Mayweather package, the all-round package, the personality, the money generating. He's a very, very unique individual, and it may take him a few years to replicate what he's done with one of his pupils. But I'm looking forward to seeing if he believes it. Then some of the greatest coaches of all time have been able to coach into their 70s. Some of them. So he's got a long time to go yet. He's just over 40 now. So I wish him nothing but luck. But he's going to get back in the ring. Floyd Mayweather, he just pick up another $500 million, a little exhibition against some MMA fighter. He's still got some business to do in boxing.
Now, I've seen you train guys, not at an elite level, but I know that the Haymaker Gym puts on clinics. You have sometimes weekend warriors, corporate guys, all kinds of different people, kids come in, and you impart wisdom. And I've seen you do it. Like, you have a gift for it. You have that personality. You care about whether or not people improve. You're humble. But to be a fight trainer of real elite fighters, what do you think it requires of what does a fighter have to change about the mentality of being the fighter to being able to impart to a guy he's not going to find another Floyd Mayweather. If I found a guy with all of Floyd Mayweather's attributes, I could win Trainer of the Year.
Exactly.
So what do you think it requires to transition from being the guy, and not just the guy, but with all that skill and all that success, to a guy who doesn't have those talents, being able to take him to become better than he otherwise would be? And does Floyd have those attributes?
The biggest thing I believe a coach needs to do, particularly if he's going to train a fighter from the amateurs to transfer into the professional game, he needs to be as dedicated time-wise to give the fighter 100% energy, not turning up in the gym for 2 hours and then going back home and hanging out. No, you've got to live and breathe it just like the fighter does. Remember Adam Booth when I was an amateur? He was basically a full-time coach from then. We lived together for a while, but to make sure I was getting up and running, making sure that I was eating the right foods, making sure I wasn't going out partying. We literally lived together to make so that's the type of dedication. Is Floyd Mayweather willing to live with his fighter day and night, making sure he's eating, making sure he's doing the right things, that he's not on his phone too long, that he's not playing computer games, that he's studying boxing. Is he willing to put that time in? If he is, 100% he could be one of pound for pound best coaches in the world. But not very many coaches, particularly coaches who have made some money, are willing to continue to put those hours in. So I'm telling you, when it first started to get a fighter from nowhere to world title, it takes way more than one session a day and having a strength and conditioning guy to do the other part. You need to be there for every session. You need to make sure you're checking his weight, checking his body fat, getting his blood work done, making sure every single element and facet of his career is taken care of. You've got to live. You kind of got to be kind of the manager as well. You've got to be the trainer and the manager. You've got to make sure he's taking the right fights. No need you being the great coach if you're the manager is putting him in fights against fighters who are going to get him cut or going to come in with his head and get him busted up and early on in his career. You need to be able to strategize the fighter's trajectory of his career, not to rush him too fast to make money for the manager. No, you've got to take the right fights at the right time to get to where you both want to get to, and that's to earn as much money, that's to win as many titles, and that's to remain healthy at the end of the journey. And it takes a special type of coach who's willing to put in the hours, because to put in the hours, you've got to sacrifice time with your family, you've got to sacrifice time with your friends, time with there's so many other elements of your life you miss out on. But if you can get it right, the rewards are worth it, not only as a career highlight, but as a financial reward as well, as a goal. Everybody wants to be able to say they train this amateur throughout his whole fight and to become a world champion. There are lots of coaches, guns for hires, mercenaries, who will pick up and say, okay, I'll train you, come in 6 weeks before a fight, jump on board. Yeah, you got to do this, do that. And they have a strength and conditioning guy who does all the hard training, and they just do a bit of, double jab, you slip 2 inches to the left and, turn that pivot. That's all good and well, but you need to get a fighter to be able to pivot and be able to do there shouldn't be something that's said when the fighter's 38 years old and all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Coaches over there you can become a brand name coach earning good money, but the coaches that are the most important, I believe, are the ones from the amateurs. Your first coach who teaches you the boxing fundamentals. And they're the most important. They're the most important ones, because without a good foundation, you can only grow so high. You can only build a building so high if the foundations aren't rock solid. And a coach who can teach solid fundamentals for a boxer, balance, time, and speed. Giving a fighter no bad habits. Reaction times. There's so much to work on a new fighter who's a clean slate. But a lot of the biggest, best brand name coaches, haven't recently taken someone from A to B because it takes too much time to teach a kid. It takes way too much time and energy and effort. They'd rather work with a fighter who's making 10 million and take their 10% for 2 hours a day.
That's one of the best breakdowns I've ever heard of what it requires to be a trainer successfully. So I hate to tell you, this video is going to go public, and your inbox is going to get flooded with fighters wanting Haye in the corner. I guarantee you that. And Floyd's not the only.
I'm just putting it out there. I don't have any time. I've got too much other stuff. I've got way too much stuff to do to be able to do the job of a coach 100%. You need to dedicate all of your life to that one trainer. You need to that fighter. You have to be living and breathing. I don't have the physical time. There's not enough hours in the day to do all the other stuff I do and to be the coach as well. And I think if I had the time, I'd be a great coach. I understand boxing. I get it. But to do it to the best of my ability, I need to immerse myself in it. And what is the cost of immersing yourself into it? Is the rest of your life. All of that, all of that gets broken down.
Yeah, you seem to be having a swell time. I don't know that you want to trade that in for some prospective fighter. I tell you, you talk about not having any time, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we've all got a hell of a lot more time on our hands than we're accustomed to. And they do say that the idle mind is a devil's workshop. So maybe people have a little too much time on their hands, because Floyd's not the only one that's put out a training video. We've also saw Billy Joe Saunders put out his own training video a couple of weeks ago. And it shook the boxing world in a way that I've talked to this guy. He's not a bad guy. Like, it could just be too much time on a guy's hands, but people are still talking about it. He's been reprimanded and suspended, from what I've heard, because he put this video out training guys on how to deal with your old lady, as he put it, in a violent manner, like how to throw shots at her, which is mind-boggling. What did you think when you seen this video?
When I saw it, obviously you're shocked. You're thinking, oh. I think it was just banter. We call it banter over here. You got extreme banter, which is kind of like, is he serious? Is he not serious? And the more you push it, the funnier it is and the more offensive it is. It just depends how you take it. You know, I know, I've heard his interviews before. I've seen stuff. I know he didn't mean that. I know that wasn't what he really meant. But a lot of people don't know him, and they're thinking, there's a boxer talking about doing that. Ban him. And, you know, he's a fighter who's spent his whole life, you know, working for the one thing that he's supposed to have next, which is a fight against the Sol Canelo Alvarez, you know, the best fighter on the planet. And it would be a shame if, you know, some a bit of tasteless banter jeopardizes that. You know, I'm pretty sure he'll end up getting some sort of a fine of some description. That happens. I've been fined. We all get fined if you push the boundaries to get the hype going. You're gonna have to get your knuckles wrapped from time to time. I'm sure he'll get his knuckles wrapped. But I know him enough. I don't know him that well, but I know him enough to 100% deep in my heart believe he didn't mean what he was saying. It wasn't a literal thing. He just wanted to make people laugh. And some people laughed. Some people winced. Some people was like, you want to take that down, mate? People might not get that it's a joke. And I think that's what it was. I think once he realized, he took it down, but it was too late. Once it's out there, everybody else started sharing it. You know, although he took it down, everyone else started going around the internet. I got sent it like 20 times by people. Like, okay. Then I looked at his page, it wasn't there. So I'm like, oh, he's obviously done something and taken it down. But that's the game you play. If you want to be funny, you're gonna have to get your knuckles wrapped from time to time when it goes too far. What is the line? He realised that was too far. That's the line.
There's the line.
I've gone back now. That's it. You don't know you've gone past the line until you're getting fined and suspended. Then it's like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back now. I've been fined. I've been suspended. I spent my last fight against Tony Bellew, the one before. I think I got like $30,000 fine for my behaviour in the lead up to it. But I knew I had a $50,000. Was it $50,000? I had a £50,000 sort of slush fund put aside in the budget for fines, because I knew I was going to get fined. I was mentally ready to think, okay, it's going to get real beefy here. So stuff's going to get said, a bit rough and I knew I already had some allocated for that. I only used half of it. £25,000, I think was the fine. But the fine goes to a good charity. So it's like, okay.
So you figure as long as you don't get fined the whole 50 G's, you did a good job here.
So I was 25 up.
You're
up after, and the 25 that went to the Ex-Boxers Association, which goes to fighters who have hit hard times. And that's the good thing. Whatever Billy Joe Saunders gets fined is going to other fighters who have hit hard times. So from a negative thing, it's a positive thing. It's not good for his brand, whatever, you know, but...
Right. And just to be clear, we both fully understand how awful a display like that is. Like you say, on balance, it's just like, it's atrocious. It's unacceptable. You can't be even joking about beating women.
if there was a comedian on stage saying the same thing, you would know that he wasn't serious. You know, if a comedian, so you'd know that you'd know he was trying to make a joke. As if you went into the comedy store and someone did exactly the same routine, you'd think, it's not that funny.
Yeah, but if a comedian got in the ring and punched somebody in the face, you'd be like, yo, man, you're out of place. This is not.
It's stay in our lanes. Just stay in our lanes here.
Yeah. But the bigger question beyond that incredible misstep, but from a guy that I think we both can say, as far as we know, is a good guy, did a horrible thing he's now paying for. Where do you think the line should be? Like, I've seen some awful things said in build up to fights. Granted, this was not that. This wasn't a build up to a fight. He just did something odd.
I personally, some of the, it sounds terrible. I like a bit of trash talk. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's pantomime. Nobody really means what they're saying. I've never really meant what I've said. It's just like, it's like watching WWE with Hulk Hogan. I'm gonna rip your head off. Okay, whatever. It's just, if it gets you excited about the fight, whether you're offended, whether you're not offended, whether you find it funny, if you're gonna watch the fight more now, then everybody wins. Just the economy of boxing wins. More people pay tickets, but the fighters get paid more money. The governing bodies get paid more money because they get a percentage of the fighters' purses. Everybody wins. The newspapers write about how terrible it was, but they only write when there's something negative anyway. So you're giving boxing profile. It might be negative, but it's still probably better to have negative press than zero press. I realized that earlier on in my career that I could, for example, when I fought Derek Chisora, we had a bet between ourselves. Whoever won, the loser would donate £25,000 to a charity of the winner's choice. Derek Chisora, up until that point, Derek Chisora was getting front page. He slapped Vitaly Klitschko and Vladimir Klitschko. But he's always been in the papers for negative things. Whole pages about terrible guy, this, that, the other. And after the fight, true to his word, he donated £25,000 to a children's leukemia charity. I thought, nice. Do you know how much coverage that got? Zero. No one's interested in Derek Chisora donating money to a children's leukemia charity. No one cares. They're only willing to print negativity. If he'd have slapped someone who owned the leukemia charity, that would be on the front page.
Yes, if he had slapped a child with leukemia, we'd still be talking about
front page. We're still that's it. But that's the game we're playing. So, I'm kind of fortunate. My career was, 15 years ago, because some of the stuff I used to say, I'm not sure I can get away with it now. A lot of the stuff, I used to really push the envelope. And now, the PC world we're living in, I might have lost my license fully.
Yeah, well, I think Billy Joe Saunders, right or wrong, has probably lost his opportunity to face Canelo, at least next.
I hope he doesn't. I hope something he tried to do as a joke doesn't jeopardize his career. You got to remember, he lives and breathes boxing. He dedicates his life. He spends time away from his family. He blood, sweat, tears, the headaches after sparring, all those fights, all of the pressure, all of the people around him supporting his family, his kids' futures. This is what it's all been for. And one bad joke that shouldn't be the reason why his kids can't be secure as they could be. Doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't. There's two sides of the argument. The people who really think this thing is worth punishing that way, and then what you've said. I think both, have a point. But
give him a fine. You give him a fine. That money goes to a good cause. By just suspending him means he doesn't earn any money for his family, and it's just like that's what if it was down to me and I was in the British Boxing Board of Control. Yeah, give him a fine. Give that money to some ex-boxers who hit hard times. Don't do it again. Sorry. Okay, just like everybody else. Other fighters have said way worse stuff like that, and they've been allowed to fight. So.
And I think it's not, to be fair, I think that this might be a really convenient excuse for the Canelo camp to be like, well, guess we got to move on, because when this thing ends, this quarantine, I'm wondering if you agree that is it kind of a situation where kind of like all bets are off the table, like all these agreements to face this person and that mandatory in this fight.
Everything's up in the air.
Everything, like, it's kind of like a clear table, and you got to be every fighter's going to be in the business of trying to get the biggest fight they can.
But you don't know when COVID-20 is going to come out.
Not only that, but you've wasted so much money waiting to get back in the ring.
Yeah, all the fighters. I know if I was active right now, I wouldn't be looking at any tune-ups after this fight. I'm looking at the biggest fight because I don't know when the opportunity may be again where I can fight. So I'm pretty sure unification fights. That's why I heard Anthony Joshua talking about ideally wanting Pulev to step aside and Deontay Wilder to step aside so he can have that collision course for the undisputed #1 position. I get that. Why does he want to risk a whole long training camp to fight Pulev when that fight might or might not happen? And then even if it does happen, who says there's another lockdown straight away? Then his fight, his chance to prove he's #1 just gets pushed back and gets delayed and delayed. He wants to prove he's the best in the world, and he wants the opportunity. I understand that, Obviously, it's down to Deontay Wilder. I think he's the guy with the cards at the moment. He has the right to take an immediate rematch or step aside. But I just don't see Wilder as the stepping aside type of guy.
Yeah, I don't see him as a stepping aside type of guy either. He doesn't even sidestep in the ring, much less in negotiations. And he's recently said that he is seeking out George Foreman for advice. I don't know if it's training, but he's definitely said he's seeking George's wisdom, and he's making some changes to his team. What do you think, if anything, that George can impart to Wilder that he needs in this extended amount of time? He's got some extra months for sure to prepare for the third fight. Will that help him?
I think George Foreman is, he's an all-time great. He's without a doubt, top 5 in everybody's greatest heavyweight list. What he's done, the fact he could come back at 45 years of age and, beat Michael Moore. And even his fight, look back at his fight with Evander Holyfield, a prime Evander Holyfield. It was a close fight. It was a great close fight. He's a living legend, a truly great big man of the old generation, and he'll know some things that these new school trainers don't know. He's been there at the greatest ever era, the best fighters of all time, the Ken Nortons, the Frasers, the Alis, the Holyfields. He's been through all the generations. So if there's anybody with any more heavyweight knowledge than he, I'd like to meet him. That's alive today. I don't know anyone who could possibly know anyone. The only people you could say, maybe Angelo Dundee, he's no longer with us. You've got Emmanuel Stewart, he's no longer with us. Ali, Frazier, they're no longer with us. He's the last living heavyweight legend who understands it from generations. He's been there, done it. He's Olympic gold medalist. He's the man. I've never had the pleasure of having a real good one-on-one talk with George, but I'd love to one day. That's one of the things on my bucket list to spend some time with him to pick his brain, because who could possibly know more? Genuinely, who could? But so sharp still to this day. He's on the money. Every time you hear him doing his commentary, he's on the money. He's still in good shape. He's still George Foreman, and that doesn't happen. Normally, people turn into, he's still George Foreman. He looks like he can knock out. Though most of the top 10, I'd still have him beaten. I'll tell you that.
Well, you famously backed Wilder in the rematch, and knowing what we now know with the extended time, the George Foreman element, do you have him winning the contest in the third fight?
Who? Wilder. He needs to do something significant. He's going to need to bring someone in who's going to change him significantly from his last performance. The last performance was subpar. He had zero success in that fight. He didn't have his range. Even the shots, he was able to connect with him. When I was ringside, the shots looked a little heavier than when I watched it back on television. I watched it 5 or 6 times since. The shots that I thought were big shots were glancing blows. In the heat of the battle, when you're watching it for the first time, and Wilder winds a big one up and connects, you think, oh, and then, but Fury didn't seem fazed by any of it. He could see it, he could judge it. I think he may have got into Wilder's head, and maybe Wilder realizes that now. Maybe he's going to come out with something different. Maybe he's going to box a little bit more, maybe he's going to be a bit more relaxed. Maybe he's not going to load up too much. He's going to come with something different, and maybe a Foreman will definitely be able to make him better in some way, shape, or way. Just having him there, just walk into the ring with Foreman, with a legend, living legend, walking you there, just knowing that he's in your corner will give him another 10, 15%. Just having him there, just being there. But to beat someone like Tyson Fury, who looks like he's on some type of different kind of form at the moment. He's so prime. He is so fresh. The confidence could not be any higher. It could not be any. He's got zero doubt in his mind that he's going to get revenge. Zero doubt. He doesn't care. And his dad, he bet me, like, he said, I'll give you a 50,000 pound bet. And I was like, nah, you're right. I think Wilder's going to win, but I'm not 50,000 pound confident about it.
I need that money for fines. I can't
exactly. Exactly. So, but this time round, Wilder's got to do something significant. But he's a fantastic athlete. Look what he's done in such a short period of time after learning to box. Olympic bronze medal straight away. Such a long run, one of the longest runs ever as a heavyweight, undefeated, longest knockout run. He's done a great job so far. He just got bested, in Las Vegas on that night, and it happens from time to time. It happens.
It does happen. I mean, it's heavyweight boxing. It's world champion level boxing.
It wasn't one punch though. You know what I mean? If it was one punch, you could say, yeah, it's heavyweight boxing. But it was a consistent breakdown. It was a winning every moment of every second of every round of the whole fight.
And we've talked about how much mentality plays a role in the fight game. And he's been roundly criticized, Wilder has, by the things he's offered since the fight as explanations. Some would call them excuses as to why he's lost. We've all heard the heavy suit thing. Now he said that, he's had a bicep injury in the fight and he's had surgery on that. And then he's even said that it wasn't me. That was he went shaggy on us like that wasn't me in the ring. That was somebody else, and everybody knows that was somebody else.
Yeah.
Whatever
he needs to believe to get him back into the ring. Maybe he needs to convince himself it wasn't him. It was his twin brother or something. Maybe he needs to convince himself that genuinely wasn't him, because watching that back, what confidence could he realistically take from rewatching that fight? He sits down, him and all his team, they're sitting down watching it right then. What can I do next time better? Everything. What did I do good? Nothing. So you need to just say, that wasn't me and that was someone else. I'm just going to start again. Maybe he just needs to say, that wasn't me, I'm just going to start again, because I can't take anything and build. I can't say, okay, the jab was working nice. The body shots, they were getting to him, but I stopped doing that. There was nothing. So it's going to be a tough ask for him to, what do I need to do better? I need to do everything better. I need to be fitter. I need to be faster. My timing needs to be better. I need to feint more. I need to, not get pushed around, not get bullied. Inside, I need to be more together. Long range, he got beat long range, he got beat close range, mid-range. There wasn't much he can take from it. He needs to start again, I believe. And that's why I think having someone new like George Foreman in is a good thing. Going back to what the tried and tested thing, it didn't work. There was nothing that worked. So maybe a new change to say, literally, that wasn't me in that ring. Let's never watch that again, and let's just start from scratch. Maybe that's the best way.
And he, as all fighters do in this moment, have an extended amount of time to work on things that you would otherwise not have enough time to really adjust. And if you know, like Chisora does, who you've done an incredible job with, bringing along with the diet and the mentality of how to train with a different, mindset or set of priorities, you can see how far he's come from when you guys decided to work together to where he is now. But assuming that this fight holds, he's got a huge bit of challenge on his plate when boxing resumes. We know that Usyk is somewhere juggling, doing the steps, like, you know, playing mind games with his cards. I have no doubt that he's in full training camp always, because a lot of his training is mental anyway. What have you found for Chisora to do now that will not only have him ready when the time comes, but maybe that you wouldn't have had time to work on between fights if this lockdown hadn't happened?
It's his skill set. It's his conditioning. You know, Derek Chisora is improving month on month. Even now, he's still improving. Usyk, Olympic champion, you know, lots of these WSB sort of semi-professional fights where he had a load of fights, the 5-round fights where he beat good fighters, the Joe Joyces, you know, Tony Yokas, the Hrgoviches. He beat some very good fighters in his semi sort of professional game. And then as a professional, he's fought all of these at current cruiserweight world champion, beat all of them. Does he feel he needs to improve on his skills to beat Derek Chisora? I don't think he does. I think he looks at Chisora. Chisora's lost 9 fights. He thinks, I've never lost a fight. I'm Olympic champion. I'm going to win this fight. I'm just better. But what he doesn't realize is Derek Chisora doesn't play the skill for skill game. You know, it's 2 different things. It's a wide receiver and a linebacker. You know, they collide. One of them's winning, one of them's losing, and he's not played with linebackers before. You know what I mean? It's that's the difference. And Derek Chisora plays a different game than he's ever played before. He's played a game against come-forward fighters who have been strong at cruiserweight, and he's struggled. He's won, but they've been tough fights. Derek Chisora, on the other hand, is 30 kilograms bigger. That's what's that? That's pounds. 67 pounds bigger than the guys he was fighting at cruiserweight. That's a lot of weight to give away. And Usyk competed at 200 pounds. He's fighting a guy who's 260. And it's a solid 260. There's not much on him. Look at him. He's got his abs coming out now. He's ready. And I'm hoping that my boxing brain has tallied it up nicely, because I just see Derek Chisora playing a very different game than Usyk's ever played before. And by the time Usyk realizes what's happened, he's already in round 4 or 5, and he's taken some heavyweight blows he's never taken before with 10-ounce gloves. You know, Witherspoon didn't hit him with anything significant. Derek Chisora will, believe me. But Chisora's willing to walk through whatever he's going to be dishing out to land what he's willing to take 2 to land his 1, because his 1's 260 worth of solid heavyweight. And Usyk, skillful, yes. It's counter punching, coming off the angles, pound for pound, top 5, agreed. But against who? At heavyweight. That's the difference. And it's going to be, Derek isn't going to have a boxing match with him. He's going to have a fight.
Well, another fight that will be had, we can certainly expect. We've seen it twice before, and this lockdown may play a role here as well. I assume that we will see Triple G and Canelo instead of Saunders Canelo when this thing breaks. That'll be the first fight up. And we know Canelo believes he won both fights. I see Canelo training constantly. I haven't seen Triple G, but there's a picture circulating the internet where they've aged Triple G to look like an old man. You know what I mean? And obviously he's got some years on Canelo, but he's also got Jonathan Banks in his corner now. He was clearly trying a different style, which he may have time to hone during this lockdown. If that fight happens, say September, or at least before this year is out, what do you make of Triple G's chances, and are they improved by the lockdown, or are they lessened because nobody's getting younger every day?
Every month that goes by, Triple G's chances of hearing the final bell diminish. I believe Canelo will stop Triple G in the 3rd fight. I had Canelo. I just believe Canelo's just got better and better and better. In his fight with Kovalev, he proved he can do it against light heavyweights, seasoned, conditioned, respected world champions at light heavyweight. And Canelo, he's a very, very special fighter who, I have him pound for pound #1. That's in my book. I'm very, very, very impressed with how he's been able to fight as many quality champions and just go through them as cleanly and concisely as he has. He never looks like he's under pressure. He's just calm and cool. The way he took out, I thought Kovalev was the wrong fight for him, really. I thought Kovalev was just too big. Say a good man beats a good little man, but you get a good man fight an absolutely exceptional little man, we see what happens. And to knock him out like that, it was a thing of beauty. It was one of the best performances I've seen in many, many years. And I just think he's in his prime. And unfortunately, Triple G is just maybe 5 or 6 years too old to make it the fight it needs to be. I just think he's just past his prime. I think his prime is, I think even I had Jacobs beating him on my scorecards when he fought Jacobs. I had Jacobs winning by a round or two. Then, that was a few years ago. It was like 3 years ago. So now he's had a lot of miles on the clock since, and he's lost a few fights. He hasn't quite looked the force he once was. Whenever he used to touch something, they used to touch the canvas. And now, they say the last thing to go is your punch, and his punch doesn't look like it once did. So what's left?
Well, what might be left for him, and a lot of fighters once they retire especially, but has been making the rounds on the internet, and Eddie Hearn seems to be committed to trying to make this a reality. Where's our boxing video game? I feel like you're the guy that could definitely be on the cover of Fight Night.
I did Fight Night. I was on the cover of Fight Night Champions it's about 10 years ago. That was fun. I got my little character. The Sowlands did an EA thing where I fought George Foreman. I knocked him down in the game. I watched him go, come on, David! And then I was like, oh God. Then George actually started to get to grips with me. George Foreman woke up and then put me in the place. It was quite an exciting fight while it lasted.
There should be an asterisk in your official boxing record that you knocked down George Foreman.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take it.
Just another Goliath that you've been willing to best and able to beat in some phase in your life. You got David versus Goliath on the poker table. We won't let you know how that turns out, but we have seen you beat Goliath before in the ring against all odds. And at this time, what's the biggest Goliath in your life? Like, post-boxing, you have all of these demands on you. It's quarantine time down. You're locked down with your family. What's the hurdle? What's the challenge? You're a guy who seeks challenges always.
My challenge is to get Derek Chisora with a world championship belt around his waist. That's another Goliath right there. Would you agree?
I would agree. And I think you got the slingshot, my man.
Listen, I'm going to do everything humanly possible. My goal, if I can do that, I can do anything. And I've got the route. I've got everything's going. And Derek's listening to me. He's improving. I think people can see the progression. They see what he does in training. He's working. He's got his mindset right. I think people have only seen probably 30 or 40% of what Derek can do. You've seen his heart. You've seen him be brave. You've seen him, knock people out. You've seen him get knocked out. But what you haven't seen is what I'm seeing every day in the gym. And if he can translate that into a fight, which he's doing it in sparring, if he can translate that into a fight, he's knocking out Usyk, knocking him out in real clean fashion. And if he does that, WBO mandatory for Anthony Joshua. Then he sparred with Anthony Joshua. Ask Anthony Joshua how he felt where Derek Chisora was. Derek Chisora is a very, very strong man. He's getting stronger and stronger as times go by. He's seasoning. He's ripening up, and he's getting ready to do something crazy. The unthinkable. Can you imagine? That for me is my Goliath. That is the one. I've achieved my Goliath being a cruiserweight champion. I've beaten the biggest ever heavyweight champion. So I won my Goliath. This is Derek's Goliath, and my Goliath is Derek doing it. And I'm doing everything possible to make sure that happens.
You've got Del Boy war ready. You made War Chisora. If you make War Chisora a world champion, as you said, you can do anything. And this guy, David Haye, has proven throughout his entire life that he believes he can do anything, and oftentimes has proven it. So I look forward to this coming year. Hopefully before this year is out, we all being in the boxing ring side by side again, doing these post-fight interviews. And hopefully for Derek's sake and your own, we'll see a strap around his waist sometime soon, and you will have defeated yet another Goliath in your life. This has been a joy, man. I miss talking to you and fighters so much. I can't wait to get back to it. But until then,
hope it's over soon.
Radio Rahim with David Haymaker Haye.